Merry Christmas, ladies and gentlemen. I was surfing the internet, and an old video clip caught my attention. Whoa! It was a review of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from 1990 by none other than famed American film critics Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert. From 1975 to 1999, Siskel and Ebert were by far the most well-known and thus well-respected film critics in the US, owing to their high-profile exposure through the medium of television. How did these guys get such an amazing deal? I have no freaking idea, but in a world before the internet, before Rotten Tomatoes aggregate scores, all we had to tell us whether or not a movie was good or not was Siskel and Ebert, a short review in the local newspaper, and the word of mouth. Now, Siskel and Ebert are a couple of really smart dudes. Siskel went to Yale and was a film critic for the Chicago Tribune. Roger Ebert was formerly a PhD student at the University of Chicago and was the critic at rival Chicago newspaper, the Chicago Sun-Times. Indeed, the premise of the show was built upon their professional rivalry and frequently included heated exchanges of mutual contempt, mostly staged, but sometimes they would agree, blessing a film with their coveted double thumbs up. But sometimes their convergence was in the negative, the dreaded 2 thumbs down. A veritable kiss of death in the eyes of many in the public. But even when they agreed, often Siskel and Ebert seemed to be woefully out of touch, like with reality. Case in point, this review of the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, which was released in March of 1990, and famously went on to gross more than $200 million at the box office, becoming, at the time, the most successful independent movie of all time. Audiences loved it, I loved it, my kids, today, love it. But Siskel and Ebert? They really hated it. A lot. But why? Let's find out. Together.
Our next film is a smash hit, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's the top grossing movie in the country right now, as you may know, and its success obviously has to do with the popularity of the TV cartoon show on which it is based, and with the utter lack of children's films.
Stop. Okay, so this is Gene Siskel, and he points out that the movie's success is riding on the popularity of the animated show, which was true. However, he does not seem to be aware of the fact that the show was actually created for the sole purpose of selling the Playmates action figures, or that both the Ninja Turtles show and the toy line are based on a much darker, more adult-oriented independent comic book from the 1980s. He also implies that the only reason the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie was successful was due to coming out at a time in which there were no other major kids movies to compete with in theaters, in the March of 1990. I looked into this claim myself and it checks out. While 1990 was actually a pretty so-so year for kids movies overall, other than the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, there were a few notable titles. But all of them were released in the summer or fall, and of these, only 2 were more successful than Ninja Turtles. Back to the Future 3, which is only debatably a kids film, and Home Alone, which was the second highest grossing movie of the year and one of the best Christmas movies of all time. Had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles been released alongside Home Alone in November, then I'm sure it wouldn't have been quite as successful. But at the same time, I really think the most decisive factors for the success of the Turtles movie were, yes, the popularity of the TV show, but also the fact that we all liked it. If people didn't like the movie, we would have let each other know, and I don't think it would have been the big hit. In fact, a lot of us went to see it more than once. Being a popular kids franchise wasn't sufficient. We all liked He-Man too, but that movie bombed harder than Michael Richards at a black comedy club. And why? Because the He-Man movie failed to meet our expectations. The Ninja Turtles movie, on the other hand, exceeded them. Let's continue.
There isn't a whole lot on the screen to recommend this movie, however, which is basically a brainless action picture mixed with music video sequences.
Okay, stop. So Siskel uses a couple of labels here to invalidate the movie, but I don't think either contain any real substance. 1, he calls the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles a brainless action movie, and 2, he references so-called music video sequences, no doubt referencing the fact that this movie was directed by Steve Barron, who at the time was mainly known for directing excellent music videos for MTV, including the iconic Take On Me for a-ha and Money for Nothing by Dire Straits. You know, some of the best music videos of the time period. Yet there are no music video sequences in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. It is not a musical, and thus neither I or Gene Siskel have any idea what he's talking about. It is in fact an action movie but mindless? Mindless would have been fair if the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles had no story to tell whatsoever. No plot, no character development, or themes. But the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has a surprisingly well done script, engaging characters, solid acting, and even a few touching moments that evoke real emotional impact. You want to know what I think? I think Gene Siskel didn't actually bother to see this movie. It's a violent movie based on a stupid kids show that sells pizza. Look at this guy. He can't afford to say anything positive about a movie like that. They'd revoke his license to critique high cinema. It would be like a pastry chef eating Twinkies. Some people just aren't allowed to like certain things. So it's safer to just not see the movie at all and just call it stupid and move on with your career. Safer, but not more noble. Just listen to Siskel's summary of the movie plot.
In the movie, the 4 crime-fighting turtles are turned into erect, human-sized creatures after they've been doused with a toxic waste. Their guru is a giant rat.
Stop. Okay, wow. So that is not a fair summary of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. That's like saying Forrest Gump is a movie about a mentally handicapped kid who got into school because his mom had sex with the principal. Or that Pulp Fiction is about a kid that got a gold watch left to him by his dead father. Yes, there is a scene in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, including glowing goo and a rat, but this scene is not reducible to what the movie is actually about. Ninja Turtles is actually about 4 crime-fighting mutant reptiles teaming up with a hot news reporter and a deranged skinny hockey player to thwart an urban crime ring that's led by a rival ninja master wearing an aluminum samurai helmet, who also kidnapped their adoptive father, a giant talking rat, far more sophisticated than one would expect. Anyway, I give Gene Siskel's giant rat and goo plot summary an F for stupid.
I know it is hard for you here.
Good.
Underground.
Yeah, okay. I want a large, thick crust with double cheese, ham, pepperoni.
Lots of jokes involve the turtles' love of pizza, which enables the filmmakers to insert not too subtle advertising plugs for a nationwide pizza delivery chain.
Just slip it down here.
Well, not really a lot, but a few jokes do revolve around the turtles loving pizza.
Pizza, pizza.
But the love for pizza was not inserted into the movie just to sell delicious Domino's pizza with its perfectly crisp, hand-tossed crust and fresh, well-seasoned sauce available in a combo meal for just $19.99. But rather, the pizza thing was invented by Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles TV writer David Weiss, who wanted the Turtles to be more like typical American teenagers of the 80s. But to be honest, yes, this is pretty blatant product placement.
The violence in the film is mindless. The movie was made by a director who previously made music videos, and you can see the influence in this sequence.
Hey! Wait for me! God, I love being a turtle!
How does this look anything like a music video? Because it involves slapstick? No, I'm not buying this claim.
I don't know what all the excitement is about. The 4 turtles have mostly interchangeable characters as they set about their boring task of conquering dull villains. The turtles talk like surfers, guzzle pizza, and pay only lip service to ninja teachings. I suppose they pay only lip service if turtles have lips. I didn't like the picture, and I hope this isn't a case of kids just settling for something familiar. I think it is.
Man, everything about this statement is so wrong. He seems to be under the false impression that all 4 of the turtles are Michelangelo, the only character that fits his description of talking like a surfer and guzzling pizza. But how do you guzzle pizza anyway? What in the heck are ninja teachings? He laments their absence as if he knows what those are and that they'd actually be an improvement. Well, I found some real ninja teachings online. According to the Shoninki, a 17th century manual on the art of concealment, the art of the shinobi consists in learning tricks that can be used at critical moments, such as being able to disguise himself as a priest, a wandering monk, a woman, or a girl of the mountains, and hidden in the night, perform espionage. Wow! Oh, I bet there'll be some things hidden in the night. Is this really the sort of thing we want to be teaching kids? It's a trip to the movies. Not a day at public school.
The movies ought to be a much more magical experience than this. That's why I hate those countless product plugs. Why have kids be reminded of the world in which they spend all of their days?
Okay, once again, the product placement is not magical. I get it. But overall, I just don't think he's making a credible case for dismissing the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. And it's not like Siskel just had bad taste. Far from it. It's possible to find his top 10 list for every year between 1969 and 1999 on the internet. And it's clear that this guy knows and loves great movies. His lists are a treasure trove for anyone looking to broaden their minds. However, I don't like all of his choices. Famously, he picked Babe Pig in the City to be the best film of 1998, over both Saving Private Ryan and Shakespeare in Love. Perhaps that's correct, but in 1982 he ranked Tootsie above Steven Spielberg's classic E.T. Freaking Tootsie! I guess perhaps Gene Siskel really does both know and care about the ninja arts after all. But what exactly is so wrong with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? I find it hard to think that someone who both enjoys Tootsie and declared Babe Pig in the City Film of the Year can't also find some merit in the Ninja Turtles movie, one of the biggest hits of 1990. Do you want to know another hit in 1990 Gene Siskel apparently hated? Home Alone. So what does the other guy have to say?
And why would a pizza company want to advertise that it's the pizza preferred by turtles who live in sewers? That's an interesting plug.
This is Roger Ebert, pizza expert extraordinaire. And boy, let me tell ya, this guy knows pizza. Actually, this is not a fat joke. He's from Chicago, a city famous for great pizza, and Ebert has actually written really well done articles about pizza and how best to enjoy it. He really does have a deep understanding of pizza. And watch what happens next when Ebert calls Siskel out for his bullshit.
I was also interested in the high level of your criticism when you pointed out that these turtles only pay lip service to ninja teachings. I suppose you would have liked it better if it had been a more devout and religious film.
Well, if somehow, I'm looking for something there for kids.
Yeah.
But what would that be, dude? Ebert has a very different outlook from Siskel when it comes to film criticism. My recollection is that he's a bit more culturally conservative and less inclined toward the avant-garde. Ebert's top 10 lists have been preserved as well. In 1982, Tootsie didn't even make his top 10, though E.T. was number 3, and top honors went to Sophie's Choice. In 1985, Back to the Future didn't make his lists, but his number 7 favorite movie that year was Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
But he's just a raggedy man.
Okay then. I also recall that Ebert was a bit of a Japanophile, and occasionally anime would get high praise from him, such as Princess Mononoke. Personally, my own film tastes are closer to that of Gene Siskel's, over and against Ebert's. And I too am a master of the ninja arts.
Somehow, I'm looking for something there for kids. If they're, like the Karate Kid film, at least there's a suggestion of some kind of altruistic behavior.
Wait, so Siskel says he wants the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie to have more altruism in the values and themes that it conveys. In this scene, Raphael has just returned home after staying out late, getting into trouble. Splinter intercepts him and offers loving fatherly advice, calling him to a life of self-discipline for the sake of his brothers. I'd say this moment fulfills Ebert's request. Or how about the implicit compassion and folk wisdom that Splinter offers little Foot Clan Danny after he's been captured by Shredder? Splinter is empathetic towards Danny, recognizing that he's just a little knucklehead, and he lets him know that his own father is probably worried about him. Of course, that's a baseless assumption. Not all fathers even know their kids are alive, but at least Splinter has good intentions. Or he has psychic powers. Oh, he actually does have psychic powers. Here's the moment Splinter's Force Ghost appears in the blue fire and reminds the Turtles that they can endure if they work together. And he tells them, possibly for the very last time, that he explicitly loves them. The point, again, is that it doesn't seem like Gene Siskel actually watched the movie. Or the Karate Kid. Daniel LaRusso was an asshole. I'll take any of the 4 Turtles as a hero for my kids over Danny LaRusso any day. Who acts like this?
What you have here is marketing carried to the ultimate degree. Now, you mentioned the Saturday morning TV show. You didn't mention the Nintendo game, which is one of the top-selling Nintendo games in the country, and I played it for our Christmas gift guide last December until it drove me crazy. These little turtles running around and doing their flip-flops. And actually, the visuals in this movie look a lot like not only the TV show, but also like the video game. And so kids have already been brainwashed to the point where they've got to see this movie. That's why it opened so strongly. They had to be taken to see this movie.
Really? The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie looks like a video game? That's why kids wanted to see it? Just as a reminder, this is what the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles video game looked like on the NES in 1989. I don't know what this is supposed to look like, but it's not this, or this, or this. Yes, the Ninja Turtles were popular in 1990. That is definitely the reason kids wanted to see the movie. But the truth is, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie was not merely a cynical cash grab. It's actually a pretty good movie. Just like the first season of the TV show was pretty good. Just like how the arcade game was so good. Just like how the action figures were pretty good. As an intellectual property, in 1990, the Ninja Turtles was simply a good brand, and the movie deserves to be treated accordingly, on its own merits, as a movie, divorced from the preconceived biases against comic books, cartoons, or video games, the official trinity of being a 10-year-old in the 90s. If you include skateboarding as part 4 of the trinity. We were good at a lot of things, but math wasn't one of them.
They had to be taken to see this movie, and I guess they liked it. I don't know. Maybe they're not that critical when they're 5 years old.
What does the age of the audience have to do with this? Sometimes kids are right, as a population, whereas adults are wrong. Think of all the weird, mean stuff adults have subjected their kids to because it was fashionable, or some credentialed expert told them to do it. Kids are right to reject certain things adults subject them to, just as much as they're right to love certain things adults reject. Case in point, Home Alone. Home Alone was the second highest grossing movie in the world in 1990, and it has long since become one of the all-time great Christmas classics, enjoying major playtime and deep cultural relevance more than 30 years later. And guess what? Both of these goofballs gave it a thumbs down. But the runaway success of the movie must have thrown some egg on their faces, because weeks later, as the film continued to dominate the box office, Siskel and Ebert had to do a follow-up, explaining why literally every family in America were tasteless Philistines except for them. Maybe Americans were having a tough time, and it's just fun to pretend that a resilient little boy could take care of himself for any amount of time. After all, an 8-year-old can't buy groceries. What is this, Japan?
But you're right. It's kind of a dark, brooding, kind of depressing looking movie, and even though I admired the set decoration, I thought they did a good job of making those sewers, it didn't have the bright and bouncy feeling that you'd like to think that kids would enjoy when they're that age.
Wait. I thought he just said that this movie looked like the cartoon show and video game, both of which are, to my eyes, as colorful and bright as can be. So how can he say this? Further, why is he surprised? Tim Burton's Batman movie wasn't even a year old at this time, and that movie was infamous for being dark compared to the TV show, and it also made a ton of money. So why would this even be an issue? Further, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie is not arbitrarily dark. As with the animated series and comic book, the action of the story is set at night, because these are ninjas. And ninjas are, as we all know, nocturnal. But this is also a movie rife with practical special effects and Jim Henson's puppetry. Dim lighting, shadows, and a low frame rate are purposefully and carefully being employed to enhance the illusion. And to their credit, Steve Barron and Jim Henson did an outstanding job of making the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles seem believable on screen. Much better than later CGI attempts, which more or less just looked really gross. But if the filmmakers had put too much light on the sets, or brightened up the tone to match an episode of Barney and Friends, then the seams and the strings are all going to show, ruining the immersiveness of the movie. But I guess when you have a nationally popular TV show where you have to talk about movies, and you don't want to see or praise a certain type of movie, you have to find a way to summarily dismiss it, without referring to specifics. So why not just call it a stupid kids movie that's inappropriately dark and violent for kids? Just like Gremlins, or Rambo, or Rocky, or The Terminator, or Predator, or Aliens, or any of the other movies that were actually popular among young boys of the time period. And look, I turned out just fine.
I don't know what the appeal is. When I sat there, I knew it was a big phenomenon. I couldn't figure it out.
Oh, come on, man. You didn't even see it.
I think it is just what you said, marketing. In other words, they want to see the Turtles because they've seen the Turtles. on the tube and in the thing, and so they have to see the turtles.
It beats me. When we come...
Well, I mean, people certainly weren't going to see the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because it was recommended as high cinema by Siskel and Ebert. As influential as they were, in the end they both gave the film a thumbs down, but their case is very poor. Siskel didn't even seem like he saw the movie. He just trashes it for product placement and for being directed by Steve Barron, a lowly music video director. But neither of these things actually speaks to the quality of the film itself. Ebert, on the other hand, at least has something specific and germane to say about the film's sets and the tone, but he's just as dismissive due to the movie being associated with a cartoon show and a video game. Yes, the Ninja Turtles were popular with kids, but so what? Neither review mentions Jim Henson's convincing costumes and excellent puppetry, bringing to life a franchise that seemed impossible, and for a relatively low budget. Nor did they mention the fun comedic fight cinematography staged by Golden Harvest, or the exploration of serious themes, such as fatherhood, the value of working together, and the importance of never paying for late pizza.
Wise man say, forgiveness is divine, but never pay full price for late pizza.
I gotta get a new route.
They could have talked about the witty dialogue, the competent writing, the great cinematography, and the use of light and shadow, the pacing, or the fact that April O'Neil was a total babe. But they didn't mention any of these things. It just had to suck because it was the Ninja Turtles. And that's stupid. Even more stupid than the Ninja Turtles. Don't get me wrong, Siskel and Ebert aren't especially stupid. Far from it. The truth is, we are all stupid, insofar as we're all given to the same sort of prejudicial thinking. What we have here is a refusal to see and hear a film on its own merits, as a film, for no other reason than the fact that the film is associated with children or children's interests. This same phenomenon also applied to Home Alone. Siskel and Ebert were afraid to give an honest review to Home Alone, or rather, they were afraid to allow themselves to enjoy it. Men in their position as members of the intellectual elite are not allowed to regard slapstick or a film starring children that isn't depressing or full of existential angst. Like a chef that society disallows the simple pleasure of a trip to In-N-Out, film critics, especially of their era, had a reputation to think about, and Citizen Kane was always in their personal top 10. Or else. This need for critics to appease their peers and relevant constituents is demonstrated by the fact that Siskel and Ebert were forced to apologize for their initial review of Home Alone weeks later, explaining that they simply don't like slapstick and elaborating on how a clever writer they thought John Hughes was, and how good was the directing of Chris Columbus. Obviously, their review pissed someone off, and they had to answer for it. Not to the fans of Home Alone, but more likely to the film's producers at Hughes Entertainment, which like them, also resided in the city of Chicago. John Hughes was gonna kick their ass, dudes. So this is what we are as animals, the elite and the masses alike. We formulate our so-called worldview and beliefs not on the basis of what's really out there, but for the sake of social conformity, for the sake of preserving our place at the table. But this same tendency is the enemy of truth, and it makes us a slave to our lower-ordered passions and fears. A world in which we allow social conformity to cloud our view of reality, a world in which the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie just sucks because it's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, is a world that is less beautiful, less authentic, less fun, and less free. I say question authorities. All authorities. Question highbrow elites and their advanced educations from top universities, because not only are they often wrong, just like everyone else, but sadly, they are often wrong for all of the wrong reasons. Experts? F*** 'em. Thank you very much for watching, and we hope you have a very Merry Christmas. Bye-bye now.